Most welcome to Humanist TV Africa. You are watching us live wherever you are. This is Humanist TV Africa, and every Saturday our show is on consumer rights. We are here always with experts who come and educate us on a number of issues. My name is Kato Mukasa. I'm a Ugandan lawyer, part of Humanist TV Africa, and in the studios is Dennis Bongole to do the production. Now, as usual, we have our experts joining us, and we have Mr. Bambale Bernard right there, the food nutrition expert, and of course we have Mr. John Kwagulo, a director with Slow Foods Uganda, and of course we have Mr. Henry Kimera, an expert, a consumer rights advocate, and of course part of Chain Consent. Yes, and this is the team we have today. I want to welcome them again to today's show. Today we are looking at a very important show, Agroecology. And if you've been watching us, this is so far the 14th show. And when you go to our archives, you'll be able to see all the issues we have handled. Today, we handle agroecology as a sustainable means of to safer food. I want to welcome our viewers, and of course, I want to welcome our panel. And I will invite Mr. Kimera to greet us, but also to give us a recap.
Okay, thank you very much, Kato. And I would like to welcome John for the second time. And like John, we pray to God that you'll be in position to always join us and share with us views from Slow Food. Then I would like to welcome my teammate, Bernard. Yeah, today I was supposed to be seated next to him, but today commitments took me away and I have not finalized them. But our viewers, I will not stop thanking Kato Mukasa for doing a humanist act of deciding that we enter a long-term engagement so that we discuss issues that make humanity. Food is the foundation of humanity. Food brings friendship. Food brings us together. Food is
Yes, Mr. Henry Kimera right there. We have a hiccup there, but of course, be back with us. He was giving us an introduction
to join in, and we share and contribute to the improvement of consumers' life. Colleagues, this is the 4th month, and each month we have been going through different aspects. The first month, we looked at food safety and food fraud. The second month, we went into aspects to do with food safety and focusing on aflatoxins. The third month was still about consumer rights and responsibilities as we were rolling through the Consumer Rights Awareness Month, where we managed to bring in our colleagues from Kenya. And then we concluded the month with all aspects. And in that month, on top of food safety, issues to do with food governance, issues to do with the food environment, issues to do with all other aspects along the value chain, we introduced artificial intelligence, the invisibility of issues that affect consumers in one way or another. So this month, the month of April, we would like to look at the agri-food systems that are sustainable, agri-food systems that nourish the planet, the agri-food systems that give us healthy, quality, safe foods and beverages. But if they are giving them to us, is the food business handling correctly the food that we get from agroecology, and is the way we are handling food, making it safe, and is it in line with the principles of agroecology? So, colleagues, having led you through that, it is now time that we go into the elements of appreciating how does agroecology become a means of sustainability to provide us safer foods. So these are aspects that we are going to discuss throughout this month, and these are aspects that we will need to see as we deliberate. Agroecology provides us with good food. Is the environment in which it is providing us sustaining it as safe food? So these are aspects that we are going to trigger and go on. So as a curtain riser, very quickly, I would like to go back to aspects that I always tell you, that consumers are very key in the food environment. And I always say that consumers are more than being passive. Consumers are the driving force that can enable and transform. Given that we, the consumers, we are the largest socioeconomic group whose decisions can make or undo. So it is very important for us to be informed. So as we deliberate today, colleagues, we are going to make sure that you get to know the importance of agroecology and how it contributes to our well-being, how it contributes to reducing climate change, how it contributes to promoting a healthy planet, how it contributes to our health and even makes us more sustainable or more resilient because of its principles of using and doing things within our means. So having said that, I would like now to call upon John to lead us through the principles, or I've overtaken my responsibilities. I was only
No, go ahead,
called in to welcome you.
Go ahead, it's very okay.
Okay,
Go ahead, sir.
so John, you can now lead us. What is this jargon, agroecology? Has it any role to play with consumers? Has it any role to play in food business? Has it any role to play in governance of humanity? And has it any role to play in improving our agri-food systems? John, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chimera, for the warm introduction and also for asking me to share about agroecology. I think it's very important for our viewers to understand why we need agroecology in our day-to-day life. So I thank first and foremost the Humanist TV for giving us this opportunity to share about our work, but also to share about what the people should basically know or should put into practice. So I'm here to share about the agroecological principles, but also to take you through on what is agroecology, because it's very important. So I will start with explaining the terminology of agroecology, because in most cases when you say or when you mention the word agroecology, it to a lay person, it appears to be a very new concept. It appears to be a very new terminology. Yet agroecology has been there with us even in our early in the early ages where our grandparents were practicing agriculture. It was agroecology which was being practiced. So what is agroecology? First and foremost, I want to bring out the concept itself. What is it? but I will try my best to see that I air this out in a lay um, man's language, so that every one of us who's listening in understands exactly what is agroecology and why agroecology. According to Food and Agriculture Organization, that is FAO, agroecology is defined as the application of ecological principles in sustainable farming practices. And when I bring this into our lay language, agroecology is the application of farming in a natural way. Agroecology is farming with nature. That when you're practicing farming, when you're practicing food production, any kind of production, you have to do it in harmony with nature. You have to do it in harmony with other surrounding organisms, the living organisms. So with agroecology, you have to practice, to put into practice uh, all the principles and the practices that ensure that they don't harm other organisms or other living organisms when you're practicing your farming, your farming or agricultural practices. So this literally means that when you're growing or when you're rearing an animal, when you're practicing any kind of agriculture, you don't need to harm any other living organism. Let it be people, let it be plants, let it be forests, let it be any kind of organisms which is on the planet. So this means that when you're practicing agroecology, it actually promotes sustainable agri practices, or it supports sustainable farming. So when you're practicing agroecology, it means that you're ensuring that the environment is not damaged, the planet is not damaged, and the people's livelihoods are not threatened. So through agroecology, we are looking at ways of practicing agriculture which is not damaging the people, which is not damaging the planet, and which is not damaging the people, the farmers, those practitioners. So this is basically agroecology. And when I talk of agroecology, there are 10 elements which are actually approved by the international institutions like the Food and Agriculture Organization. These elements are actually guiding us when we are practicing agroecology. The first element is an element of diversity. I'll try my level best to see that I explain these elements in a way that everyone can understand them. I will not use those scientific jargons and those complicated terminologies, so that we have everyone on board. Now, the element of diversity. This is a very key element to agroecological transition because it ensures food security and nutrition security. In this element, when you look at agroecology, the agroecological systems are diverse, and they have to be diverse in a way that when you're growing food, you don't need to grow a particular product at, in a season or at a very big acreage of land. You have to diversify your garden when you're growing food. If you're practicing monoculture, just know that you're not agroecological. If you know that the kind of food you're growing does not allow other products to grow there, that is not agroecological. There should be a way that you're growing your food and it allows other products like trees, any other food products to be growing as well. That is the element of diversity. That is very important to diversify. And diversity doesn't only apply in the garden. It also applies on the plate. That you grow your food, but for the food you grow, it's only maybe for export, it's always only for sale, and you're leaving your families without food for consumption. There, it's going to affect the nutrition of your family members. So it's very important for one to be growing, but also consuming diverse, nutritious foods for enhanced dietary diversity. So that is about the principle of diversity. The second principle is the principle of co-creation and sharing of knowledge. When you look at agricultural innovations, they respond to better and local challenges. And you find that different local communities have their local challenges. And it's always the local solutions which can solve these challenges which are affected by the communities. And there are so many people in the communities. There are so many ways in the communities which can be used to solve the challenges which are faced by people. So with agroecology, when you look at this principle of co-creation and knowledge sharing, it depends on the context of the knowledge specific, or whereby that the knowledge which is being used or which is being shared in the community is brought by the community members because they know their communities better. It's very difficult for me as John to say that I stay in Uganda, I live in Uganda, and I have been in Uganda for so many years. I can, therefore, I can be able, since I'm an expert in agroecology, I can be able to give solutions to issues which are affecting people in West Africa or to issues which are affecting people in Europe. It's impossible because I don't know which challenges they go through on a daily basis. But of course, I can give solutions to challenges which affect my community in Mukono, which affect my country, Uganda. So with agroecology, co-sharing and co-creation and knowledge sharing is another principle which is very key. The third principle is the principle of synergies. Agroecology plays a very careful attention to design of diversified food systems, whereby when you're growing or when you're practicing agriculture, it's very important to understand that there is a multiple ecosystem services. There is a way that agriculture allows different practices or different crops grown at the same time. So the principle of synergies applies here, that all the products which are being grown, all the practices which are put in place have to work in harmony with others which are already in the community. Then we have our fourth principle, which is efficiency. With efficiency, it's actually promoting the practice of agriculture with the usage of less external resources. In most cases, when people are growing food, they have that feeling that if you don't use external resources like the synthetic chemicals, the synthetic fertilizers, you cannot grow food successfully, which is not the case. As long as you apply agroecological principles very well, you can manage to grow food using locally available resources, and you use less or even no external resources. For example, if you have your compost manure done very well, if you have your animal remains which are collected, it's actually very it can be used for production of food, and at the end you find that you're not spending on external resources. I will go to another principle, which is recycling. In recycling, we have actually saying that no waste to waste. Whichever waste you see that you're going to waste, it can be used for another productive activity. I'll give an example. We have waste from animals, the animal manure. That animal manure can still be reused for so many productive activities. It can be used for biogas. It can be used for fertilizing the soil, that you can apply this manure in the soil so that your soils are fertilized. So recycling is very important. If you're using plastic bottles, if you're using any kind of plastics, these plastics can still be used to plant garden in urban areas or even in rural areas. So recycling is another key element in agroecology. Of course, we have another element, which is resilience. With resilience here, we are looking at people and communities and also the ecosystems. You know, with diversified agroecological systems, they are more resilient, that people can be able to solve challenges that affect them. That's why in most cases you see issues coming up like climate change, and you find that people who are practicing agroecology are not having that much burden or shock which come because of climate change. Why? Because agroecology means that you're practicing agriculture, which is supposed to be practiced in that area or that community where you're staying, which means that you don't need to use external inputs that could not be resilient to shocks like climate change, you know, prolonged droughts and all that. So resilience is another key element of agroecology. Of course, we also have an element of human and social values. With agroecology, actually, this element is very important, that most of the people are underlooking. You know, with agroecology, if you're practicing agroecology, it is not the same as you're practicing organic agriculture. Most of the people think that organic agriculture is agroecology. It like brings out all the elements of agroecology, which is not the case. Organic agriculture is just a small element in agroecology, whereby you can be organic but not agroecological. But still, you cannot be agroecological without being organic. I don't know whether the viewers get my point.
No, you need to explain that on a bit further.
Yes.
Please explain that on a bit further, yes.
Yes, I'm actually bringing this because this is a very key element which people should understand, the human and social values. Yeah. How can you be organic without being agroecological? That for organic certification, we only look at those elements of health, environment, you know, those kind of elements, whereby a person can be certified as long as they have not used the chemicals to produce food, as long as they have grown food in a way that they are using locally available resources, natural resources like natural manure. There you can qualify to be organic and you can get the certificate. And why am I saying that being organic does not literally mean that you are agroecological? You could apply all those principles, the organic principles, in your farming practice.
We have some technical hiccups, but we continue with our show. Mr. John there. Continue, please.
Okay. So I was saying that with that, I was explaining that why you can be organic but not agroecological. It means that you can go somewhere, you chase people from their land, you grab people's land, and you grow organic food in an organic way. There, by the virtue that you have grabbed people's land, by the virtue that you have not cared for the people who have been staying in the area you're practicing agriculture from, it means that you're not agroecological. So agroecology looks, that's why agroecology looks at three. It's actually termed into three. One, it is a science. Two, it is a practice. And three, it is a social movement. If you don't allow people to work like in harmony or to be free with in their society, on their community, however much you practice organic, you're not agroecological. So this is where the human and social values comes in, that the livelihoods and the well-being of the people has to be catered for, which is not in organic. Organic, we only look at the health, the environment, and of course the people are not looked into. So that's why I say that you can be organic, but not agroecological. But still, you cannot be agroecological when you're not organic, because the application of organic agriculture is the one which drives us to agroecology. So I don't know whether it is very clear for our viewers.
It's very, very clear now. What I can add very fast is that agroecology also looks at the human rights aspect in that angle, because the people are taken care of, because they've told us that it is about science, practice, and social movement. Those are the aspects I picked from your speech. Thank you so much, Mr. John. That was a good one. Really, I was taking notes, and as usual, I'm a student who doesn't stop learning. And I know, of course, our viewers continue learning. So I've really learned quite a number of things from your talk, co-sharing, the synergies, and recycling. To me, this is very important. When I look at my villages, where I come from, with all this kind of waste products, we have hens, we have cows, we have pigs, and we waste the manure. By the way, we need all these lessons to learn how do I turn waste products into useful, say, nutrients that can be used to treat my crops, my plants. We need these lessons on this channel, where experts can tell us how we can transform our manure into useful products. And in fact, I welcome such shows where you come and actually show us the processes with some of these photos, some of these images, to know how do I transform my manure into something very important. To me, this is so important to us as small-scale farmers. I want to stop you there for now and invite Mr. Bwambale, Mr. Bwambale Bernard. Please, I'd like you to come in and add on from where Mr. John Kiwagalo stopped. Mr. Bwambale, back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mukasa, and thank you so much, John, for giving us a curtain rise on issues of agroecology. It's a very interesting subject that we've been studying over the years, but of course, we shall try to give you bits of things so that we're able to touch everything here and there. And I think John has the relevant information around agroecology. So we want to think about why we need agroecology to guarantee food safety and nutrition security. You know, last time I told you that food security, food and nutrition security does really not mean having food. It goes beyond having just food. And whenever we are discussing an aspect of food and nutrition security, we are referring to 4 things, which actually agroecology brings clearly to us. So when you're talking about food and nutrition security, we are talking about availability of food. That is one dimension. Is food actually available on your plate or at home? So agroecology, because it promotes diversity, we believe that diversity in the farm translates into diversity on the plate, but also diversity in the market. You can just imagine that on your farm you have diversity. You have banana, you have maize, you have potatoes, you have animals, you have cows and goats and whatever. So you have quite a number of enterprises on the same farm. It's likely if you come back to the African setting, maybe you have only banana. So what that means is that agroecology gives ability to have diversity on the farm, which translates into diversity on your. And then we start talking about now nutritional diversity. But also looking at agroecology as a means of providing safety on our plate. You know, as John was saying, that we cannot have agroecology without organic farming. It cannot be there. So meaning that you are at increased opportunity of preventing yourself from consumption of pesticides, highly hazardous pesticides, because you are producing food from the natural way. Like you're using available materials, you're using organic substances which are less harmful to human health. So meaning that whoever is producing food agroecologically, they are at increased opportunity of having safer food compared to somebody who is actually doing synthetic throughout the year. So that is how agroecology contributes to safe food. It's because you have the food around you, you are able to manage it using local means, but also using available sources. And so you are able to minimize the consumption of highly hazardous pesticides or synthetic substances within your food system. So that is how we can correlate agroecology with safety of the food that we take. There is minimal usage really of synthetic products. Now, the other question now that we are always confronted with is that there are a number of barriers that actually affect us. One of them, maybe John will tell us, there are many questions that a consumer would ask themselves. Where is the organic food? Where is the agroecologically produced food? We have seen that because people want to have quicker results, they end up eliminating agroecology from their system and they end up into the synthetic mode of production. And then you find that the production becomes more expensive because someone is spraying across the season because you have so many, resistant strains of microorganisms that are actually attacking your food. And so you end up using a lot of costs when you're producing food. And because you're using a lot of costs, then the cost of production goes higher, and then you want to sell food at a higher cost. People have not calculated that. So agroecology can minimize those costs. But because now people want very fast results, you want to have very big yields, people go away from agroecology. And what that now, it becomes a barrier to agroecology because agroecology may take a little longer. And we said no from slow food, that you have to produce food at the right timing. So it is slow to produce, but you're producing a safer product. So people don't want to go slowly into the production value chain. So they end up having food very fast, and the food becomes more poisonous because they've used wrong ways of production of food. So it becomes a barrier to agroecology that people need things which are very, very fast, and yet they lose a point of the safety of that food. So that is a barrier there we have. Two, when you look at the markets, if you go to our market systems, it is very difficult for us to distinguish between synthetically produced food and organic food. In our setup now, you realize that you go to the market and everything you find there, you're not very sure which one is organic and which one is not, which one is agroecological and which one is not. And I think it would be very good for us now to reconsider in our market systems, how do we get agroecological food and we package it in such a way that every person is able to identify. This is for Africa. I know that in Europe it has worked, that organic and inorganic foods can be distinguished from the packaging and how food is being packaged. But I think there's still a challenge in Africa that our food is really not packaged at that level that I can easily distinguish organic or agroecologically produced food from the synthetic food. That is still a barrier in our setting, that we are not able to tell which one is organic, which one is not organic. But also, when you look at the promotions, you learn that inorganic food is highly advertised, and we are not advertising organic food. If you check our televisions, if you go online, if you check these materials, you will learn that most of the inorganic food, or the food that is not organically produced, is actually is all over media, is all over advertisements. But where is the organic food on the adverts? And I think it would be very good that we start thinking about advertising organic food so that people know about this organic food and where we can buy it. If it were possible, even in our markets, we need to have stalls that are actually labeled organic stalls or organic foods so that people can be guided on where this food is found. Of course, taking into consideration that whenever such things happen, then food fraud is coming on board. But I think we need to see how do we strike a balance on advertisement of organically produced food so that our consumers are aware of this healthy food. Otherwise, we shall be talking about organic food, agroecologically produced food, but our people, our consumers are not able to have access to it. They are not able to know where it is. But also, when it comes to the burden of production, organic food as burdensome. They're okay, it will take long and all this, but there are no shortcuts to healthy life. There are no shortcuts to having healthy food. If it takes 3 months, it takes 3 months, not 2 weeks. So I feel that there is a lot of complacency when it comes to communities wanting to have quicker results and at the expense of our lives, at the expense of what we are giving to society, at the expense of what we are providing to consumers. And so it will be very important that as we talk about organic food, we provide conducive environments for accessibility to this food. Where is it? Where can we access it? Is it affordable to the people? How and where can we get this kind of food? I think it has to come in handy when we are discussing this kind of aspect. The other aspect that is a barrier is actually politics. There is a lot of politics when it comes to promotion of healthy food. For example, if someone has come with their highly hazardous pesticides in this country, for example, our country, and someone has millions of dollars and someone is going to employ so many people in the industry that is producing highly hazardous pesticides, I am telling you that the government could go crazy and say, no, I think we need taxes. And so they can tax the person at the expense of humanity. But I'm happy that Uganda has tried and came up with an organic bill and all this. But many people don't know even what is in the bill, unfortunately. So I think it is our role as government and civil society spaces to make sure that these regulations, institutions around organic farming are actually popularized and people understand this subject of organic farming. But away from politics, people want money at the expense of the people they serve. I know there's a lot of corruption when it comes to organic and inorganic farming. An inorganic farmer or someone who's bringing solutions which are inorganic and they're not healthy anyway, they'll be given priority compared to those perhaps who are bringing solutions that actually are organic. I have seen many of our actors here in Uganda getting a certification for an organic who have organic pesticides, who have organic, but not getting certification because it is taking them a long process. The politics involved makes them actually feel that I think they have nowhere to go. All of these are barriers to organic and agroecology because we're not promoting it to a higher extent when it comes to some of the countries in Africa. And then also looking at who is funding agroecology versus the person who's funding maybe synthetic agriculture. I feel that there is money that is, of course, promoting organic farming and agroecology, but when you compare it to the inorganic colleagues, you will learn that actually the inorganic takes a bigger chunk compared to the healthier options of production. And at the end of the day, the production of food becomes unsustainable because one, the soils become weak whenever they get used to over accumulation of chemicals. The soils cannot produce so much if at all they are not handled in a healthy manner. So every time we do a lot of synthetic production and we are not feeding the soil locally and using organic production, we end up depending on synthetic products up to the end of I don't know when. So agroecology then brings on board a more sustainable way of producing our food because everything that goes there is utilized. We have seen a lot of nutrient exportation that comes with synthetic agriculture, but also we have seen exportation of nutrients because our farmers are no longer feeding their soil using the available resources. For example, if you look at banana, when you peel it, the peelings in the olden days were going back to the soil to provide these nutrients back to the soil. Currently, these are not taken back to the soil. They are taken somewhere else. And at the end of the day, the soil is actually not getting back what it gave out. So we end up having infertility of the soil and people start complaining, our soil cannot produce this and the other. it's really not true that the soil cannot produce, but you've taken away the nutrients that are supposed to support the soil. So all those are the major, I would say, barriers that are actually affecting agroecology. There is limited funding for agroecology. There is minimal, I think many people are not taking up the agroecological production because they want very quick things. There is a lot of politics involved in there. There is no conducive environment to regulate organic and inorganic production systems. So all those combined together, we find that there is always a challenge. And that is the challenge that we need to think about. How do we address issues of synthetic production? Or maybe how do we bring on board maybe integrated pest management systems instead of us really focusing only and only on highly hazardous chemical compounds in production systems. So I think now with organic farming and agroecology, they become a big solution to all those challenges that we see in agri-food systems. And I think we need to implore the world that we can invest in agroecological production, and then we are able to have vast food diversity on our farms and diversity in our markets and diversity on our plates. So I think that is the philosophy that I would be looking at really in the perspective of agroecology. How do we promote agroecology? How do we advertise agroecology? How do we bring agroecology to the person down there to appreciate that there's a lot of food that can be produced agroecologically and is a better option for healthier living? So I think, Kato, for me, that's what I would really look at. And
Thank you so
yeah.
much. Thank you so much. That was a
Welcome.
good one. That was a good one. I was listening attentively, and I do believe that our viewers have enjoyed it. I want to touch again on the limitations. Let us get Mr. John to come in and tell us what are the barriers. You have talked about them briefly. What are the barriers? But also show us how is Slow Food handling these barriers when it comes to agroecology. Mr. John Kiwagalo.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kato. There are so many barriers to agroecology, but of course, I will mention a few critical ones, which I think should be shared to our viewers. One, policy environment is not really supportive to agroecological practices. That you find that with agroecology, the practitioners don't have money. And the conventional practitioners have a lot of money. And in this case, they inject a lot of money in our policy making processes, which at the end affect our the agroecological practices. That you find that many conventional farming practices are brought in the country because there's a lot of money which is being given to the policymakers to push for these practices, which is actually a very big barrier to agroecology. Secondly, it is the issue of knowledge and capacity of the people who are practicing agroecology. That in most cases, people would want to practice agroecology, but maybe they don't have the knowledge of how they can practice this natural farming. At the end, you find that people are taking the other alternative, where they just get the things which are quick, for example, chemicals, just to apply in the soil for them to practice farming. So at the end, it affects agroecology because when the people don't get the right knowledge, they don't practice it. They don't put it into consideration. Then another barrier which agroecology faces is the climate shocks. That in most cases there's a very big network of conventional farmers who are applying farming in a conventional way, and at the end it affects the climate, which brings about climate change. And when climate change comes, it affects the agricultural practitioners, whereby they find themselves having variances in in seasons, of which an agroecological farmer has to rely on natural seasons to grow food. They have to rely on natural seeds to grow food. So you find that those practices which are being conducted by the conventional farmers are affecting the agricultural farmers in a long run. Then there is a very big challenge of access to quality ecological inputs. That in most cases, the seeds which are on the market does not support agroecology. That a farmer can go in the market to buy a particular kind of a seed. Let me give an example of tomatoes. Yet these tomatoes are actually manufactured by the company, which is profit oriented. And if the company is profit oriented, they will of course manufacture seeds which cannot germinate in case you replant. And then they make sure that they manufacture seeds which cannot grow in case you don't use their chemicals. So you find
Exactly.
that, yeah, you find that a
Mm.
farmer finds him or herself in a dilemma that they have access to only such kind of seeds of which they will not grow if they only use natural ways or natural resources to grow. So this is a very big barrier to agroecology. But also, of course, with agroecology, there is less funding to agroecology. Not so many donors, not so many funders, not so many people there are caring about agroecology. Most of the people care about the profits they would want to get. So there are a very few supporters who would come on board and be like, we are supporting agroecology. And when you find that even these very few ones are not those who have those mega, accounts that they have a lot of money, which can be injected into the communities for agroecology to be practiced. So this is a very big challenge, and it gives the other side of the practitioners an opportunity to pass whatever they want to pass in the community, because for them they have money, they use a lot of money to do whatever they want to do. So when you look at all these barriers and so many other barriers which are in place, of course, which we cannot mention here, but these are some of the key barriers which the farmers or the agroecological practitioners are facing. And of course, there is also a very big issue of the consumers, that now the consumers are following that, the social media trend. They see what is on social media, what is happening in Europe, that in Europe, if I want to feed, you have to be feeding on chicken every day. Then they look for those, fast food restaurants, and they fancy those fast food restaurants. You find that, like a young person who's 30 and below, eating local food is like something which is backward. That they cannot even mention it anywhere. That I'm here
Mm.
consuming my potato, I'm here consuming my cassava. Yet,
Mm.
when it comes to those fast foods, these people even take selfies and be like, I'm here at this restaurant,
Mm.
not knowing that the
Mm.
food which they want most is unhealthy food. So the
Yeah.
consumers, maybe they have that maybe less knowledge about the right food choices they have to take, but also in Uganda here, for example, we don't read. Someone can go in a supermarket, they buy a product, they don't read the labels. They don't even know. I mean, you can buy something which has expired 2 years ago and you eat it not knowing that you're eating an expired food item, just because we don't read. So those are all challenges. With agroecology, it's a very wide concept that it brings us from production, processing, consumption, actually up to the plate or up to the table. So when you look at all these challenges, they are affecting the people, the agroecological practitioners, but also the consumers. So it's very important for people to know what to do when you want to practice agroecology. If you're buying food would you want to buy imported food or you want to buy food from the local markets? This is something the consumers should understand, because at the end, people just want to, because they are lazy, they just want to buy those imported foods, which can be prepared within a minute, and someone eats the food. And people have left all the local foods, which are actually supporting agroecology. So these are some of the barriers which I would mention that affect agroecology.
Thank you so much.
Mukasa, I have a comment.
Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead before I make mine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So there is John reminds me of something that crossed my mind. There are organizations, for example, that are promoting agroecology and organic farming and all that. But whenever they organize activities, let us say meetings, seminars, workshops, whatever, they don't serve those foods. You can imagine if you've been promoting something and you're telling people it is a healthier option and all this, and then you have a meeting, you have a workshop, you have whatever it is, and you don't serve what you're actually talking about. So a few days ago, we visited Slow Food, and we were surprised that they served us. They served us agroecologically produced food. Actually, they went to the field out there. I don't know wherever they went, and brought us fruits from the village down there. Like they're giving you berries. I don't know how they call them in Luganda, and to something.
Those gooseberries.
And I was very surprised to see them in the hotel and in their parks. And so you would I took about 100 of them. Like I asked myself, what is this? I've never seen it anywhere. So you promote something, but you are not actually promoting it in reality is another barrier that we have. So every time we invite our participants for our meetings and whatever, and we feed them on what we are actually stopping them, then it becomes a challenge. So I think that is also a barrier that is hindering our people from adoption of some of these practices, that if you who is promoting something, you cannot serve it to them, then they don't think that it's actually working. So I think those are some of the things that we need also to discuss with partners who are promoting some of these aspects. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is awesome. In fact, I've liked today's show even more, especially when Mr. John Kwagolo talked about people, especially young people, eating as a show off. You see selfies all over Facebook. I'm not on Twitter, I'm a Facebook man, a very old model person. But you look at some of the photos on Facebook, people are showing their chicken and chips, people are showing, fancy foods. They will never show cassava. They will never show katogo. And this is the real food, honestly. They never show yams. They never show this kind of food because they think that if you show yams, cassava, lumonde, you're going to be so local. No, this is I love that point, John. The kind of disease, the mentality we have got in Africa, which we must run away from, because really it's killing us. No wonder young people are dying at 25, at 30 with cancer, because we are doing it bad service to ourselves by eating poorly, thinking it's the right way to eat. And as you have said, why do we see this so much in other countries? Because of lack of options. They eat not so good food, not so healthy food. Why should people in Africa who have all this natural, organic, healthy food copy the trend of eating fast foods? Because they have been brainwashed. Because this is what a capitalist wants. Because a capitalist is all about money. Someone who's opening up a restaurant selling fast foods wants money. They don't care about your life. They don't care about the oils you take. You talked about the seeds we buy from our markets. John talked about the seeds. Like you go buy a seed, kind of seeds, but if you don't use their fertilizers, you won't get any yield. I've seen seeds in my village which can only yield one season. You cannot replant them. You can only eat them. Now, and the effect is that you have used chemicals in terms of fertilizers, and they are making your soils infertile. You won't be able to plant for another season. So these are very pertinent issues we are learning today from the experts, and I wish we change our behaviors, especially as the people having the food. Because if you don't have the food, we may excuse you, but the people having the food who can eat healthy and are eating badly, it's very bad. Lastly, Bella talked about the issue of you people organizing these workshops, self consent, just giving an example, and then you give fast foods simply because the food supplier you hired was not given the right instructions to say, look, we are promoting safer eating. We want foods cooked in this way. We want Dodo, Nakati, and others. Now, once Consent does that on their functions, trust me, all the participants will know that whatever you are preaching is what we are implementing. So to me, I'm learning that us as practitioners, we need to practice what we preach. Lastly, I want to invite Mr. Kimera to give us your parting shot. You can wrap up the show the way I've followed it, but also give us your parting shot, since this is the first episode on agroecology.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kato. Sorry, you are not called Mr. Kato, you're called Kato. I'm sorry, I've been off and on because I'm on the road. I trust all our listeners have picked up something that we have had today, something to do with sustainability. We are challenged as consumers today with the food systems or the production systems that affect us. But I trust today, with the deliberations that we have had, there is a lot that can be done and learn from. And I would like to inform all the consumers that we have a role to play to transform the markets. And as consumers, we need to join the different campaigners of sustainability, because the sustainability that is being campaigned for is that keeps us healthy, and it is that makes us live. Like I always say, food is medicine, food is healthcare, sustainably produced. It will enable us to live a healthy and sustainable life. So colleagues who have been listening in, and I would like to thank John, I would like to thank Bennett, and I would like to thank all other colleagues who are listening globally, that let's continue listening. This is a month of agroecology, and let's continuously engage in understanding how agroecology, both as in crop and animal husbandry, can make our homes more sustainable and lively. So thank you very much, colleagues, and looking forward to seeing you next week when we are still going deep into food governance and looking into all other aspects to do with effective practices that bring in healthy environment that we live in. So thank you very much. And thank you very much, Joan. Thank you very much, Bernard. And thank you very much, Kato. I always like when you bring in the home stories, and you always remind me of home and you talk about home. So thank you very much, colleagues. Up to next Saturday. All the best. And those of our colleagues who are Muslims, I will wish you a very good Eid, and make sure that the food you eat right, and keep healthy. We need you, and may Allah protect you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Kimera. Thank you so much, Mr. Kimera. Me, as usual, I'm a village man. I'm always proud of my village roots, and I want to give village examples every time I get a chance. Now, Mr. John, please give us your parting shot. But I want us to emphasize that in the next shows, we are going to look at help our farmers know how we transform waste into something useful as part of agroecology. So as a parting shot, I want Mr. John to give us that parting shot. Then afterwards, Mr. Bernard will come in. Please, go ahead.
Yeah,
Mr.
thank
John?
you so much. Thank you so much, Kato, of course, for the opportunity for us to share about these kind of issues. It's very important for our viewers to understand that without agroecology, the future is not bright. We have to practice agroecology, we have to practice sustainable farming to ensure that we care for the coming generation. The people will be there when we have gone. So if we are greedy, if we want today's, today's money and we forget for tomorrow, at the end, we are living a life which is very, very difficult for our children and our grandchildren who are coming in the future. As I conclude, I call upon all the stakeholders, including the policymakers, civil society organizations, academia, farmers, cooks, and every one of us there, that whichever practice we do, whichever activity we conduct, let's reflect and we put in our mind, what I'm doing, is it right for the planet? Is what I'm doing right for the people, for the health of the people? Is what I'm doing for the well-being or the livelihood of the surrounding community? So let's try to reflect as we implement these activities. And also, I call upon the consumers to always consider that food which comes from the nearby communities, because we need also to support the local economies and also to control to control the food which is just imported from other countries, which could be not good for us to consume. And for the policymakers, please, we know you have the right to come up with any policies, but always ensure that people are given those policies which support them and their environment, or which support the communities. So I call upon every one of you to join the struggle in advocating for agroecology, and we are going to be sharing a lot of good practices. Of course, we are going to be also sharing practical examples. And if there is a need at all, we can still bring those technical people. You know, the technical people are the farmers. The technical people are those people who are really practicing. We can still bring them here. They can speak their English. I mean, you know, you can still understand it. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to understand, but you can still understand it. And they give you practical examples. We can still organize. We go to the communities, we go to the gardens, we have a live there. People see exactly how hot compost is being made, and they see exactly how an agroecological garden looks like, how they manage it. All these are possible. So in any case, for us as well, we are available and we can do that.
I want to add in something now, but before I add it, I want to say that Mr. Kimera is looking very nice in the new location. Now, I wish you were there from the start.
Thank you for the compliments. Paul, what I like about all that is that John has brought in the practicability, and that will be something very great, something very good. So what we will do, we'll travel to Buikwe and we see the agroecological farmers, and we look at homes that are doing sustainable activities. So that is a very good and proactive kind of, and I loved when you said the technical people are the farmers when they are doing their technical daily work. So I'm sorry for chipping in, but it is very exciting. Yeah.
Anyone cannot chip in. With me, let us be free. Of course, anyone cannot chip in. But what I've loved from Mr. John there is that we need to show practical examples. They don't need to feature on this show, but you with a camera can make us 5 minutes video, 10 minutes video, show us what they do, interview them, just a simple video, and send it to us. We can edit it, we can improve on it. Now, people can see how Farmer X is doing this, even in photos, without even having a video. Even in photos from these people can speak louder than even words. We get these photos to showcase to people in Zambia, in Zimbabwe, because our shows are seen throughout the world. We are not only Uganda based, so we want to teach whoever is watching this show to benefit. In fact, I want to thank you so much, all of you. Mr. Bwambale, give us your parting shot.
Thank you so much, colleagues, for your time and also for being available to deliver on this show. I think that really from what we've discussed and what we shall keep on discussing next week, I feel that agroecology can offer a solution to climate change, given what the colleague was taking us through, the different principles. And also the same agroecology can also address issues of food safety. So when you do agroecology, you're doing a balance of things. You're actually handling issues of food safety. You're also improving the environment in which you're operating. So now that we have the burden of climate change, I think agroecology can be a good solution to improving the climatic issues, but also at the same time, issues of food security, and at the same time, dealing with aspects of food safety. So together we can learn together, improve systems, and be able to achieve agroecology, but also proper and sustainable food systems. So with that, I'll be building on that next weekend, and I hope to have again with all of you Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, everyone, Mr. Kimera, Mr. John Kiwagalo, and of course, Mr. Bernard Bwamba, and of course, Dennis Bongole in the studio. We cannot forget your work. Thank you so much, everyone. We shall be back to learn more. I'm interested in learning how to make farming better for my villagers in Rengo, for my friends in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, wherever they are. I want them to learn from this show. Thank you so much. The experts will be here next Saturday, same topic, but a bit of diversity in it. Thank you so much. See you in the next show. Bye-bye.